My name is Thomas, and I learned the hard way that blood might be thicker than water, but it is also a lot more prone to turning toxic when money is involved. I have always been a man of routine. For 35 years, I worked as a master electrician before retiring. I spent my days fixing lines and solving problems that other people couldn't handle. I never had much, but I was comfortable. I owned my home, I kept my tools clean, and I valued honesty above everything else. My daughter, Jessica, was the light of my life. When she brought home her husband, Julian, I wanted to like him. I really did. He was sleek, always wearing expensive shoes, and he had a way of speaking that made you feel like he was the smartest person in any room. At first, I didn't see the cracks. Julian worked in finance, or so he told the family. He always talked about investments, high-yield accounts, and the importance of having liquid assets hidden away in a fireproof safe. He would come over for Sunday dinner, complain about the market, and then spend hours looking at his phone. I thought he was just busy. I didn't realize he was drowning. The problem started slowly. About 2 years into their marriage, Julian started asking for loans. Small ones at first. He needed $200 here, $500 there. He always had a perfect excuse. His bank account was frozen for a security check, or his client had delayed a payment, or his car needed emergency repairs that weren't covered by his premium insurance. I am a retired man on a fixed income, but I have savings. I helped him out because I wanted to support my daughter's husband. I thought I was being a good father-in-law. I didn't know that Julian was gambling. I didn't know that he wasn't really working for a firm, but was instead trying to day trade with money he didn't have. He was living a lifestyle he couldn't afford, and he expected everyone around him to subsidize it. One Tuesday in November, I received a call from Julian. He sounded frantic. He asked me to come over to his house immediately. He told me it was an emergency regarding his business accounts. When I arrived, he was pacing back and forth in his study. The room was cold, even though the furnace was running. He had a heavy, steel-plated safe sitting in the corner, its door hanging open. It was empty. "Thomas," he said, his voice shaking, "I'm ruined. Someone broke in. They took $50,000 in cash that I kept for a private transaction. I need your help." I looked at the safe. It was undisturbed. No scratches, no signs of a forced entry. I knew a thing or two about locks. I looked at the digital keypad. It hadn't been pried. Someone had keyed in the code. I felt a cold knot in my stomach. "Julian," I said calmly, "how did they open the safe without damaging it? Did you leave the code written somewhere?" He stopped pacing. He looked at me, his eyes wide and desperate. "It doesn't matter how they did it. What matters is that I need to file an insurance claim, and the circumstances are complicated. I need a story that won't make the insurance company suspicious. I need you to help me frame this." I stood there, my hands deep in the pockets of my canvas jacket. I was carrying my old tape recorder. It was a habit from my days as an electrician. When I was on a job site, I used to record notes so I wouldn't forget details about the wiring. It was small, silver, and still worked perfectly. I had turned it on as I walked into his house because his voice on the phone had worried me. I wanted to make sure I followed whatever instructions he gave me correctly. "What are you saying, Julian?" I asked. He moved closer to me. He lowered his voice. "I need you to take the blame for this, Dad. I need you to say you were here, that you saw the safe open, and that you took the money. If it's a family member, the investigation will be quick. You're retired, you have no criminal record, and you'll just get a slap on the wrist. It'll help with my insurance payout. I'll pay you back double once the check clears. You'll be helping me save my reputation." I looked at him. I looked at the man who had sat at my table, broken bread with me, and promised to take care of my daughter. He was asking me to destroy my life, my reputation, and my integrity for his greed. "You want me to lie to the police?" I asked, my voice steady. "You want me to go to jail?" "It's not jail," he snapped. "It's a deposition, a statement. Then we settle it out of court. Don't be old-fashioned, Thomas. Think about Jessica. You don't want her to know I'm bankrupt, do you? Think about how disappointed she would be in me." I didn't answer him, I just nodded slowly. I told him I needed to think about it. I left his house and drove home in a daze. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I went into my garage, sat down at my workbench and played back the tape. There it was, crystal clear. His voice demanding that I take the blame for his fraud. 2 days later, the sound of sirens filled my quiet street. I wasn't surprised. Julian hadn't waited. He was impatient and he was cornered, so he had taken the initiative to solve his problem by accusing me. 2 police officers knocked on my door. They were polite but firm. They told me that Julian had filed a formal report claiming that he had seen me near his safe, and that money was missing immediately after I left. They didn't just come to talk. They had a warrant to search my house. They searched my bedroom, my kitchen, and my garage. They moved my tools. They looked through my drawers. They found nothing, of course, because I hadn't stolen a dime. As they were about to leave, Julian pulled up to the curb. He had brought Jessica with him. She was crying. She looked at me with confusion and betrayal in her eyes. "Dad, how could you?" she sobbed, burying her face in her hands. Julian stood behind her, his arms crossed, looking like the injured party. He looked at the lead detective and said, "I told you. He's been struggling lately. I try to help him, I try to give him small loans, and this is how he repays me." The detective looked at me. "Sir, we have a statement from the owner of the property. You're being accused of grand larceny. Do you want to say anything before we proceed?" I looked at my daughter, then at Julian. Julian's face was smug. He thought he had won. He thought I was just an old man who didn't understand how the modern world worked. He thought he could manipulate the law to his advantage. "I do have something to say," I said, my voice quiet. "I have a recording." Julian's face went pale. He tried to speak, but no sound came out. "Detective," I continued, "if you'll allow me to access my workbench, I have a device that contains a recording of a conversation I had with my son-in-law 2 days ago." The detective nodded. I walked over to the shelf, took the silver recorder and handed it to him. He pressed play. The silence in the room was deafening. The voice of the man who had just accused me of being a thief filled the space. "Dad, I need you to take the blame. It'll help with my insurance." The detective stopped the recording. He looked at Julian. The mask had completely fallen off. Julian started to tremble. His knees looked weak and he seemed to shrink in his expensive suit. The neighbors were standing on their porches, watching. Jessica looked at her husband, her face turning from shock to pure, cold fury. I stepped toward him. I didn't yell. I didn't need to. I just looked him in the eyes, the way I used to look at a faulty circuit breaker I was about to fix. "Now who's the con artist?" I asked. The police didn't have to search my house for evidence of theft anymore. They had everything they needed to arrest Julian for filing a false police report, attempted insurance fraud, and perjury. They took him away in handcuffs. He didn't even look back at me. He was too busy trying to find a way to explain his way out of a prison sentence. The weeks that followed were hard. My daughter had to face the reality of the man she had married. It turned out he had debts everywhere. He had used my name to open credit cards I didn't know existed. He had wiped out their joint savings account. But the truth came out, and I managed to clear my name. I learned a lot that year. I learned that you should never underestimate someone just because they are older. And I learned that the people who try to make you feel small are usually the ones who are the most afraid of being exposed. I spent my life working with electricity. I know that if you don't ground a circuit, the charge will find the path of least resistance and destroy everything it touches. Julian was like an ungrounded wire. He was dangerous and he was volatile, but every wire has a limit. He reached his. Jessica and I grew closer after that. She moved back home for a while, and we rebuilt our trust. She apologized for not seeing what he was, and I apologized for trying to be the hero who kept everything quiet. We learned that openness is the only real protection against people like him. I still have my tools, I still have my routine, I still record my notes, but now I also have a story to tell. A story about how honesty isn't just a moral choice, it's a foundation. When your foundation is made of lies, the first heavy rain will wash your entire life away. People often ask me if I regret being nice to him. I tell them no. Kindness is never the wrong choice. The mistake was in ignoring the warning signs. I allowed his charm to blind me to his lack of character. I thought that by being generous, I could earn his respect. But you cannot earn respect from a person who does not value themselves, let alone anyone else. Julian went to jail. He lost his home, his reputation, and his freedom. He tried to blame the pressure, the market, and the times, but in the end, it was his choices. Every single one of them was his. I watched him go through the system, and it was a cold, hard reminder that justice isn't always fast, but it is often inevitable. I am an old man now. I like the quiet. I like the sound of my workshop and the feeling of a job done correctly. My hands are steady. My heart is at peace. I have learned that the people who underestimate you are providing you with the ultimate advantage. They don't see you coming until it is too late. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you are being accused of something you didn't do, don't panic. Stay calm. Observe. Document everything. Do not let them rush you into a reaction. The truth does not need to be loud to be heard. It just needs to be preserved. Life is a series of connections, much like the wiring I spent my life working on. If you connect with the wrong people, you risk a fire. But if you protect your own integrity, you can withstand any surge. I look back at that day when the police stood in my living room, and I don't feel anger anymore. I feel a weird sense of gratitude. It was the day the mask fell off. It was the day the cycle of deception finally snapped. It opened the way for a better, more honest life for my daughter and for myself. Some people might think I'm too trusting. Maybe I am. But I'd rather be a trusting man who knows how to spot a lie than a suspicious man who has nothing to believe in. I held onto my recording, not because I wanted revenge, but because I knew that truth was the only thing that could save me. So if you're out there dealing with a family member who is trying to drag you into their mess, remember my story. Take a step back. Protect your interests. And never, ever assume that you are powerless. You have more tools at your disposal than you realize. You have your memory, you have your composure, and if you're smart, you have the evidence. Use them. Be the one who stands your ground. Don't let someone else's greed write your story. This experience changed the way I see everything. I don't take things at face value anymore. I look for the hidden motives. I look for the gaps in the logic. And when someone tries to make me feel small, I just smile, because I know that I am the one who holds the power when the truth is on my side. I have moved on. The trial is over. The restitution is being paid slowly, month by month, into a fund for my daughter's future. It's not much, but it's something. It's a start. And that's all we can ever ask for, a fresh start, built on a cleaner, stronger foundation. Remember, a home is only as strong as the wiring behind the walls. Keep your connections tight, check your lines, and never let a short circuit take down your whole house. There is a quiet strength in being the one who waits, the one who watches, and the one who is ready when the time comes to reveal the truth. Life is not about how much you have or how fast you move. It is about how you stand when the pressure is at its highest. It is about knowing who you are when everyone else is trying to tell you who you should be. I have never felt more at peace than I do now. The weight of his lies is off my shoulders. The confusion of his betrayal is gone. I am back to my workbench, back to my tools, and back to the life I worked so hard to build. And I wouldn't have it any other way. If this story resonated with you, join our channel by liking and subscribing for more real, raw, and family-centered stories. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one.